So, call me crazy, but I can't really see Franco-American relations in terms of trade improving a whole lot under the incoming administration. So maybe you should consider buying some Armagnac. So let's taste them out. This is a whole lineup of Marquestau. I'm just going to call it Marquestau because I think it's funny. This is a somewhat obscure house from Hontanx, which is on the far west side of the Bas-Armagnac region. You really didn't hear much about these guys until they started hitting some of the retailers around 2023 or so. And I was happy to get into a split of a couple of vintages because there's a lot of them. They're all very reasonably priced for how old they are. We're going to see if they are any good. Let me set some glasses up here. I'm doing this kind of in a hurry because I got to go grab my girls in a bit. Let's just do this. All right, so let's get these poured. So I have got a 2001, I think a 1998, 95, 92, 89, and an 88. And this is a pick by the Aficionados group. Full disclosure, I hang out in their Discord a lot. Some of these I know are sold out, but some are still around. And the important thing, I think, is just to get a handle on kind of the character of the house. And you know what? We're just going to go in kind of reverse vertical order, I guess. All right. That's the 95 poured. Here's the 92. All right. Now, I should warn you, on the bottles, the ABVs on most of these things are marked as 44.5% because I think they're just lazy. They didn't want to actually do ABV measurements. Now, the Aficionados folks did want something a little bit more precise than that. So theirs is marked as 48.4, but don't necessarily think that it's so much stronger than these others. That's just like they actually took the time to get a number. All right. Here we go. I've got my water all set up. Okay. Let's start with the 2001. Again, this is a house that I don't really know. Let's see what's up. It smells like Armagnac. I mean, are there figs? Are there prunes? Yes, lots of them. Like rich raisins, sultana raisins. All the dried fruit. There's some like old musty coffee grinds. More kind of raisiny grapiness coming through. Dried cherry, lots of dried fruit, frankly. Other stuff, slightly floral as well. Just a little bit of like a potpourri note in the background. Slightly earthy. There's the coffee note, but also a little bit of like a, I don't know, like an overstewed puer kind of note. Yeah, I mean, this is very sort of almost textbook what I expect from Bas-Armagnac, and that's good. That is good. That is what the market wants on the palate. Okay, assuming this is a good representation of the house style, is this, a big, fruity, peachy sort of style? No, it is not. Is this a, Is this a big floral style? No, it is not. There are flowers and there are fruit, but this is much more in, the grungy, coffee-driven sort of style. Lots of coffee stuff. Used coffee grinds that have been sitting in your French press for way too long since you've cleaned it, but also like fresh coffee grinds. What kind of fresh coffee grinds? We're definitely in wash territory, like wash South America, maybe Colombia. A little bit of the potpourri thing. Just a little nod towards like a lemon lime peel thing. Touches of like topsoil. And then lots and lots of dried fruit, as on the nose. Figs, prunes, dates, raisin, more raisin. Dried cranberries, dried cherries. Relative to the age, and this has got to be, I think these were all bottled turn of 2023, somewhere around there. So you're talking about a 22-year-old Armagnac here. Relative to that age, mouthfeel is okay. Finish holds on pretty well. Mouth length is a hair bit short. It's starting to crawl back past my molars, but it's not as much as I would have been expecting. But for something you can get for well under, I think well under €60, something like that, hard to complain about this. I'll give it a squirt of water. We'll come back. Moving on to the 98. Again, marked 44.5%. Who knows what it actually is? Ooh, okay. On the nose, throwing much more kind of like lemon and... Actually, it smells a little bit like you took the 2001 and took like a little bit of lemon pledge in a good way and kind of put it on top. It gets a little bit more like lemon grungy, a little bit more floral. Okay, there's also a much more kind of old dirt on top of the lemon pledge. You're still getting tons of dried fruit, coffee, like grungy tea, pu'er. But yeah, more lemon, more dirt, more flowers. That pretty much sums it up. Maybe like half a peach too, like a quarter peach on the palate. I like this a bit more. Yeah, on the palate, brighter, a little bit more lifted, more lemon, orange peel, lime peel happening. There's a little bit of a potpourri thing, but there's also like just kind of real flowers running around. Maybe a little bit of like blossom, honeysuckle, orange blossom. And that's all kind of interplaying nicely with the figs and the prunes and all the dried fruit and the coffee stuff and the grungy tea stuff and the topsoil stuff. Mouth length is a hair bit better. It's sort of starting to tickle me a little bit more back there. Mouth feel about on par. Finish. It's less grippy, so, you might... I mean, if what you're looking for is that Kentucky hug, and that's what you go to Armagnac for, no judgment here. You might feel like this is a weaker finish, but it's really not, because even though it's less tannic and aggressively woody than the 2001, a lot of the other structural elements are hanging on just as long. The flowers, that half a peach thing. Oh, did I mention the half a peach? That's in there. Yeah, I like this. It's a fun stylistic shift within the house. Interesting. This actually tastes... No, I shouldn't say tastes younger. It's certainly lighter than the 2001. So let's move on to the 95 here. Look at the difference in color. I'm not sure if you can tell, but this is a little bit lighter than this. It's actually lighter than the 2001 as well. So let's see what we're getting in the 95. Interesting. There is almost a crushed raisin aspect to this. You know what this reminds me of? When you're making Tokai, you're basically taking rotting grapes, right? And you're putting them out, and then you're basically mashing them into a paste. I mean, it doesn't smell like ferment. It doesn't. But if you took just basic table grapes and you did that, that's kind of what this would smell like. It's what if Tokai but table grapes? Yeah, like mushed, rotting raisins, but awesome. There's a little bit of lemon coming through again. Floral, but it's more real flowers than potpourri this time. Coffee. Aside from that kind of noble rot grape thing, it's actually a cleaner style than the 2001 was, or the 18. The kind of dirty, grungy element is not as present. Okay, we're also getting a little bit of a peach nectarine jam thing. Maybe a little bit of strawberry. But yeah, you've got piles of dried fruit along with this. Some figs, prunes, yada, yada, yada. All the French oaky stuff. Okay, so we're on a trend upwards as these get older, which is a good sign. Let's try this on the palate. I should have been, there's little hints of cinnamon on these first two. This one really brings some cinnamon. By no means a bomb. But yeah, take the mushed Tokai paste that I talked about earlier, and then just stick some cinnamon sticks into that. And that's a lot of the flavor profile in this. Darjeeling tea. Colombian coffee again. Fresh flowers, dried fruit, kind of bringing up the back on this. I mean, the prices on these are not super duper expensive, and they're sort of bringing it a little bit. These are not. I mean, if you're coming from L'Encantada and you're expecting bombs, it's not. These aren't really doing that. They're a little bit more balanced. They're a little bit more considered. Fans of some of the aged grappas, aged Mars I've been talking about, they might be into this style. I mean, it's not. You never mistake this for Mars. It tastes like an Armagnac, but we're getting a little bit more of that kind of slightly green tea leafy thing. As we get through this. Yeah, that's good. These are all pretty good so far. Add some more to that, and we shall come back. Moving on to, what is this one? 92. 1992. Now we're getting back into like the 2001 territory, because this just smells very dark. It's like, goth figs is what this smells like. So, imagine figs listening to like Bauhaus, and that's what's going on here. No, there's more going on than that. There's some like a dried peach kind of element to this. It's sort of, peach but preserved or dried or something like that, more so than fresh. Lots of coffee, overstewed tea, just woody elements, woody cellar. Little hints of flowers, but we're back to that kind of potpourri sort of thing, more so than the previous two glasses. This is an interesting range. I wonder if I think they're distilling their own stuff, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is like a negociation or something. I don't know. It's there's less stylistic continuity on these than I was expecting, which is fun. That makes it fun. Yeah, we're getting into classic L'Encantada territory here. Cinnamon. Did I mention cinnamon? Cinnamon, nutmeg, some cardamom, clove. On the palate. Yeah, if you were one of those bourbon drinkers who got into Armagnac because, hey, this is a way to get lots of age and lots of wood for not a whole lot of money, you will like this. Take some figs, smother them in like brown sugar and stove tobacco, maybe, and black tea leaves, and then I don't know where it's going. Dip them in coffee. Dip all that in coffee, deep fried in coffee, and that's a lot of what's going on here. There's a lot of wood on this. Certainly some cinnamon. You're going to want to get some cinnamon on your figs your deep fried coffee figs that I mentioned before. But it's not overwhelming by any means. It's very balanced. It's very. There's a lot of wood, but it's an easy drinker. In this, relative to this sort of genre. In terms of form, hard to pick this apart. Good finish. Feels substantial in the mouth. Good length. It's doing all the things. It's, in many respects, maybe the most forgettable of these so far. Of the last three glasses at least. But that's just me. And I like Barillon and stuff. I like weird things from Armagnac. Anyways, moving on. This is the 89? Yeah. Also marked 44.5, but who knows? Sorry, my eye hurts for some reason. No. It just smells like I'm, I don't know, smelling a cooperage in Gascony. It really smells like French oak. Figs, tea, coffee, prunes, dates, raisin, coffee, tea, clove, nutmeg. This might be going too woody for me. It's there's a lot of wood in this. A little bit of the potpourri thing. Gotta say, I was preferring the flower characters on these two middle glasses here. Oh, okay, there's a little lemon peel coming through too. Nice, again, like bourbon Armagnac converts, come right over. You will be into this on the palate. Gets a lot more peppery. I mean, there's hints of pepper on these too, but this one, it gets distinctly kind of black peppery. Molasses, fig butter, overstewed coffee, overstewed tea, cinnamon sticks, nutmeg, clove, orange peel, potpourri, finish is a tad hairy for me. The tannins are just a little bit too. They're a little bit a lot, but it's not. We're not too far out of bounds. We're not throwing it out of bounds so much. It's the other elements of the profile kind of hang on long enough. So I'm not going to ding it too much. And by the way, if you're one of the bourbon convert folks, you will dig this. I'm going to give it a squirt of water, and we will move on. By the way, I should say, do I know that a squirt of water is the right amount for these? No, I do not. I think we're going to find out as we go through these a second time. Okay, and this is the one I actually bought a bottle of, the Aficionados pick. It's this is actually marked as 48.4, and it is Cask 6, apparently. Hontanx. Yeah, this really smells like just like clove and allspice. And cardamom. Weirdly enough, it comes across as less woody than some of these others. There's definitely some wood here. Do not get me wrong, there's wood here. But like, it's really driven by the kind of spicy elements. There's a little bit of basil happening. Hints of orange peel. Very malty tea, like awesome tea or something. Fruit, I mean, yeah, so you're getting really more dates than figs for me. Almost like dried black currants, something like that. But it's really the spices and a little bit of an herbaceous edge to this, which is coming up front for me. White pepper, lots of white pepper. Interesting. On the palate, there's a pattern to what the Afish folks pick, and they tend to pick things with really kind of forward, powerful mouth presence, and this has that. It's not just woody and tannic like kind of the 89 is. This one we're dragging in clove and pepper and cinnamon and cardamom and some allspice. And all that is just kind of tickling and spicing up your mouth, and it's really fun. And it's fun because, like, the traditional Armagnac elements are there, the dried fruit stuff. Figs, dates, prunes, all that. The coffee, the awesome tea. A lot of that's still in play here. Some fresh flowers. A little laser sharp line of orange in there. But, like, they're really playing second violin to that kind of like spicy effect, which I'm really appreciating. It's interesting. It's good. It's very powerful on the palate, but it's in balance. It's kind of its own thing. Good pick. Okay, so that's that. Let's go back through these. Try them again. Give them a final score. All right, back to the 2001. Da, 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 da. Okay. There's a kind of a distinct brown sugar, muscovado sugar thing coming out now. Pretty. You know what this smells like? This might be too obscure. Tiger sugar milk tea. You know, so good milk tea places will not just make good milk tea; they will have their own like gimmick. And the thing with Tiger Sugar is they have the milk tea and then they have like this oily black stuff that they put inside that is a little bit terrifying when you first get your little cup, but it's awesome. And this is exactly what it smells like. Yeah, it smells like Tiger Sugar milk tea. Plus a little bit of the perfume, dried fruit, that kind of stuff. You know, I was too hard on this before. I'm like, this is for the price. This is they're throwing this at you, and for the age, for the profile, this is pretty dang good. At least on the nose. It could fall apart on the palate. Let's see. I will say that we don't usually buy from Tiger Sugar because I seem to be the only one in the family to really be fond of them. We usually go to Kung Fu Tea, which I think it's pretty basic, but it's also really well priced. So, you know, that's that. This is good. So water brings out a really nice peppery element to this, like some freshly ground black pepper kind of stuff happening. A little bit of that tiger sugar milk tea thing. Lots of coffee. The potpourri elements kind of pull back a little bit. Lots of dried fruit still. The effect is really like firming up the mouthfeel. Is what's happening. It's still just a hair bit short on the mouth length. But I'm really having trouble like picking holes in this. This is just a darn good little Armagnac. I'm in 86 territory. I don't know where to put this. Can I get 86 plus? I mean, I want to give it a plus because it does improve the water, but I don't think I don't want to call it an 86. Let's just call it an 86. This is an 86 point Armagnac. It's good. 86 points. Very, very good if you like just this conventional profile. And pretty reasonably priced. Let's move on. Now, the 98 is, if I remember correctly, was one of the oddballs. Just had a very unique profile in this lineup. Yep, I remember. It's lighter. It's a little bit more citrusy. There's some grapey elements coming out now, which is fun. Like just overt, like crushed grape stuff. Maybe not as strong as the 95 was, but we're in that territory. On the palate. Oh, these are so close. These two, I mean, these are two you could start fights over. If you set them side by side and like just started asking a bunch of people, like spirits nerds, which of these is better, because some people are just going to prefer this more kind of oak forward style in the 2001. I honestly kind of dig the 98 more. It's brighter. It's bringing some orangey, lemony, limey stuff that I like. I love the fresher flower kind of profile. I don't think the mouthfeel firms up quite as much as it does with the 2001 when you put some water in it, but the length is a little bit better. The finish is a little bit cleaner. I might give this a little nudge. I'm going to call this one the 86 plus. I like this. That said, if we were in that scenario, we pop those two bottles down, someone out there would think I was a maniac for scoring this above this. So bear that in mind. This is my palate. I'm trying to judge these things as objectively as I can, but that also means being true to my own palate. So, and I'm aware that some people are just going to like this style more. Be aware of that. If you are more of a traditional Armagnac person, buy this instead. Save yourself like the €2 extra that the 98 costs. All right, moving on to the 95. That is so... I mean, part of my brain wants to call this like Palmas brandy adjacent, but it really isn't. It's its own thing. It's too like sugary and sweety to smell like a Mar or something. It really smells like like mushy noble rot grapes or something, like what you would get in a Sauterne, but it's not. It's also bringing in those kind of intense French oak elements that you expect from an Armagnac, and also a lot of flowers for that matter, and some like lemony, orangey stuff. Not a ton of development on the nose. It's maybe a little bit, bringing a little bit more of a sweetness, a perception of sweetness on the nose now. But still, a lot of this is like, you're mushing Tokai grapes, except they're like yummy rotten table grapes instead of ferment. On the palate. I really like this. It arrives with a lot of that kind of like delicious rotting grapes character, with some musty coffee grinds and some other stuff, tea leaves, dried fruit, white pepper. But then, like, it finishes much more like a traditional sort of Armagnac-y thing. Much more on, like, overstewed coffee, overstewed tea, old cellar stuff. There's a big journey on this little bottle. That being said, I do think like you need to bear in mind this is a very unusual profile. This is not one I would throw at like an Armagnac amateur. This is definitely not one I would throw at like a bourbon convert. And formally, I mean, it's good, but it's not that good. The finish doesn't hang on. It's a medium long finish, but it's not, like super duper extended. There's a lot of complexity, but it's not a super bunch of complexity. So, like, I like this. It's definitely hitting in the happy place in my brain, but in terms of like absolute score, it does firm up with water. I'll give this an 87 plus. 87 plus, but be aware, this is a little bit special. This is a special profile. Maybe, with the exception of the pick, the most unusual of the bunch. But I also think the pick is more approachable for more people. All right, moving on to the 92. 92. Yeah, we're back onto traditional yak here. Pretty much the same on the nose as it was before. It screamed like, yakety yak before. It smells like yakety yak now. There's maybe a hair bit of almost a campfire smoky element coming through now, which I like on the palate. Ooh. a little bit of like a sour berry kind of thing happening. Yeah. Okay. I was wrong about you. Okay, so a lot of the structure, what's happening in the palate, is like bourbon convert Armagnac. Like a lot of wood, big woody finish. But when you add some water to this, it does throw some like sour blueberries at you. And the flowers, now that I've added water, have sort of turned us into that potpourri thing, which I'm okay with, but it's not like my favorite, to more of like a, you know, like a fresh flowers kind of thing, like an orange blossom kind of thing. Finish is very good. Mouth presence is very... hard to argue with this. In my brain, would I pick the 95 because it's weird for myself? Yes, I would. But I think this is about at the same level. I'm going to call this an 87 plus as well. We're having a lot of pluses in this video so far. Moving on to the 89. And we're almost done with this. Also, I'm not bringing a lot that's sort of new. Maybe a little bit of like a lemon peel kind of touch to this now that I've added some water. But yeah, it was very oaky before, and it's very oaky now. Some of the pepper has sort of stepped up a bunch with water on the palate. So what I feared has not happened. What I feared was that the oak would come out and the finish would just like get completely out of balance. And that hasn't happened. There's a lot of oak on the finish. And yeah, it is just slightly stepping over the line for me, but I think this would be fine for most people. There's a little bit of a peachy thing now. I think this is good. I think this is very good. I like the previous two a little bit more, but the 89 here, sorry, is quite good. I'm going to give this an 87 flat. So we're in kind of a consistent score range here. On to the 88. Ooh. So it's still very like spice driven, this, and a little bit of like a basil thing as well. But now there is also like a lemon peel blueberry thing coming out, which is totally appealing to me. It's more like it's a mix of like fresh blueberries or sour blueberries and like dried blueberries, but it's there on the palate. There was a second when I was thinking there might be a little bit more pepper on the palate than before, but no, I think it's about where it was. This is a very good Armagnac. It's a little bit unusual because it isn't bringing a ton of aggressive tannicity. I don't know what to say. But it is bringing a ton of interesting spicy elements and some fun, like, tea leafy elements. And it's enough in the wheelhouse of traditional Armagnac that I can see folks like that getting into it. But I'm also interested because it's a little bit of a fun, interesting profile all its own. I'm going to give this an 88. I do think it's the best of the bunch in terms of score, but in terms of what I personally would love to have a bottle of, I think maybe the 95 is my favorite. That's I'm not sad about having a bottle of this. And yeah, that's the video. Very consistent across the range, despite very different profiles in some cases. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and cheers.